Hi everyone. Today we have Ayush. He's a student from Harvard University and will be sharing his journey with Aspirant today. Thank you so much for this call, Ayush. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
And I hope you're staying safe during this pandemic.
Yeah, so far so good. Yeah. How about you?
Okay. I'm doing good too. Thanks for asking. So, without wasting much time, let's talk about your educational background. Tell us about your schooling and what is your major in your bachelor's that you're doing from
Yeah, sure. So I'm a rising sophomore at Harvard studying computer science and economics.
Harvard.
Um, and prior to Harvard, I went to a local high school where I did all the test prep and stuff like that. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. And I want to know before getting admit to from Harvard, did you had a list of universities that you applied for, and was there a particular reason you chose Harvard over others who offered you admission?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually ended up only applying to Harvard. Um, but I did have a list of universities otherwise where if I didn't get into Harvard, I would have applied to. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and for why Harvard, it was really my first choice because of the balance between I want to do entrepreneurship, and so it was a balance between the strength of the computer science department, the strength of the economics department, as well as I'm an athlete. I play squash, and so the squash team is very good, and so
Okay.
for those three reasons, like the combination of those three, that's why it was my first choice.
Okay. And in your opinion, do you think that students should have criterias when it comes to choosing the right university in case if they have admits from multiple universities? You
Yeah,
told about
yeah, no.
your criteria. What all criteria should a student keep in mind?
Yeah, so I think it's very first of all it's very important to have a criteria, and it's a very personal decision. So I think
Mm-hmm.
the primary considerations would be your intended field or career choice, but I think a lot of it has to do with more simplistic factors like geography, where you want to be, what kind of weather you like, what kind of people you
Mm-hmm.
want to be around, any specific extracurricular activities. For example, for me it was sports. But yeah, no, I think there are a lot of considerations. Additionally, financial assistance, like financial aid, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if there are any specific professors. I mean, yeah, you can really get pretty deep with it really quickly. So I think it's good to have a process, I think.
Okay. And tell us about your SAT score and how did you prepare for this exam? Did you take some classes, online classes,
Mhm.
or in-house classroom coaching?
Yeah, yeah. So I took both the SAT and ACT. So on
Mm-hmm.
the ACT, I received 36 out of 36,
Mm-hmm.
and so I took the PSAT as well. Which is it's pretty much the SAT, but it's for the National Merit Scholarship. So I got a 1520 out of 1520 on that as well.
Okay.
And so I ended up winning the National Merit Scholarship along with like a few other kids in the country. And other than that, SAT, I got a 1560 on the SAT. So I ended up submitting my ACT score,
Mm-hmm.
which proved to be the better of the two. And yeah, I recommend taking both also. And with regards to prep, so I personally did not take any outside courses, but
Mm-hmm.
I did make use of the online resources as well as prep books, and I think online tutoring is very valuable. I mean, I do tutoring for other people as
Mm-hmm.
well, so yeah, it can be very
Okay.
helpful.
And now that you spoke about you got a scholarship, so under this scholarship, uh, is your the entire tuition fee covered, or your your
No,
dorm expenses, everything is covered? What was the process of application, if you can talk?
no, yeah, no. I wish that was true. No, actually, this the scholarship only it's only like $2,500 scholarship. I think
Okay.
for each of the 4 years. But I think most of the financial aid at Harvard is provided via need. There's no merit scholarship in the Ivy League at least. So
Mhm.
yeah. So that was the value of the scholarship was $2,500.
Okay. So since you had an amazing ACT score, do you have any tips or suggestion? How should a student prepare for these exams so that, they can score
Mhm.
just like you?
Yeah, no, I think it's not rocket science. I think like primarily you want to have a good understanding of the fundamental concepts and be familiar with the actual test. So
Mhm.
I think good resources are, first of all, it's tutoring one-on-one, as well as prep books, and there are a lot of online resources as well. But I think a lot of people, if they don't if they don't start preparing early, I think it can be a little stressful, which impedes your score a little bit. So I think just getting started early and making use of all those resources.
So how many months did you prepare in total for these exams?
So I prepared. So I was a little on the later side. Personally, I prepared around 2 months. But usually, like it's very unique for each person. But
Okay.
I did have familiarity with taking other standardized tests as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
think like I think that a lot of transferable skills from the other ones. But yeah, I suggest like 2 years even, like
Okay.
as long as you get comfortable with it, whatever time it takes. So
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you remember if there was any minimum limit or a minimum SAT or ACT score needed for for admission in Harvard when you applied? Was there a cutoff or something?
yeah, so there's no strict cutoff. I mean, a lot of it is dependent on they say they take a holistic approach to your application.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people sometimes don't have the resources for like for example test prep and stuff, and the whole culture of standardized tests is I think inherently like some people will do better than others, so they definitely take a lot more into account. But of course, like you should do the best you can on these
Okay.
tests. Yeah.
And in your opinion, what plays a major role when it comes to getting admit from a university? Is this your, you know, SAT or ACT scores or your GPA?
Yeah, no, so I think it's not either of those for me. I think in my view it's kind of the story you tell as a candidate. And
Mhm.
I mean, if you look at it from their perspective, what you offer to the university. So I think you should definitely have something you're very passionate about, something you're very talented at, and you should definitely portray that in your application. But of course, that's not to say that the GPA and the standardized tests don't matter. They matter equally. But
Mhm.
what differentiates you, I think, are not only those factors, but your individual story. So
Okay. Okay. So tell us about loan. Did you take any student loan? And if yes, from which bank and how was the process?
yeah, so I personally did not. I did not take any student loans. But like for banks and stuff, I think like just find the one that gives you, the one you have the best relationship with, and the one that gives you the best
Mhm.
price or the interest rate. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now, tell us about the infrastructure and the general campus environment inside Howard.
Yeah, sure. So Harvard's a very close-knit campus. So we have the Harvard College, which is the undergraduate institution of Harvard, as well as the graduate schools, all in Cambridge, in Massachusetts, on the East Coast
Mhm.
of the United States. And it's a very concentrated campus as well, which is great. We have something called Harvard Yard, which is the main area where all the freshmen live. So it's like a very nice community feel. And then a little bit outside, dispersed throughout that area, is all the buildings you go to for classes, lecture halls, where you eat. So we have like a freshman dining hall as well as many other dining halls, depending on. So we have a housing system, and the upperclassmen eat at their respective houses. So yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of how the school's set up.
So you are in your freshman years, right?
Yeah, so I just finished my freshman year.
Okay. And tell us about if Howard is in particular famous for any sports activity or program.
Yeah, so with regards to sports, so not a lot of people don't know this, but we have the most sports out of any college. So I think we have like 42 Division I sports. But yeah, no, so the sports culture is great. I'd say like so women's rugby won their national championship this year.
Mhm.
And then Harvard men's and women's squash also won national championships. So But like all the sports are high level, like it's Division 1. So
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about library and labs inside the campus. Which library do you go to in specific, and uh, does your program needs a lab wherein you can just go and work? So if you can
yeah,
talk a little about it.
yeah, I can. Yeah, so there are a lot of great resources for us. I think the primary library that I visit is Widener Library, which is it's quite a scene. Like it's very large, very nice on the inside, and um, I think there's several other libraries as well. There's like the law school library and a few other ones. But yeah, I mainly visit Widener Library to do my work. And as for the labs, yeah, there's like a whole engineering building, like several engineering buildings, and we're building more. And there are plenty of labs. I personally have not taken advantage of those yet, but I
Mhm.
look to when I get back on campus. So
Okay.
yeah.
And tell us about the other recreational facilities and gym inside the campus.
Yeah. So we have the primary athletic center, which is where most of the varsity sports take place. And outside of that, we have a few other gyms, as well as I mentioned the residential houses where upperclassmen live. Like some of those have gyms as well, and a lot of other recreational facilities. And then we have like a primary recreational facility that is like any other athletic club. It's quite nice, and we have like basketball courts, all different types of sports, and weight room and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, and let's talk about healthcare and medical facility inside the college campus. Does the university have a hospital, or how do
Yeah.
you guys take care of your health in case if you want to go
Mhm.
inside university?
Yeah. So we have Harvard University Health Services. So
Mhm.
I think you sign up for the insurance and you get unlimited visits there. Like it's a pretty standard healthcare facility. It's just like whenever you're sick, you can go there and they'll help you out and prescribe your medication. And there's pharmacy as well on campus.
And your tuition covers these insurance fee, right? Or it's
So
in that?
it's uh it's not covered in the tuition itself. It's a just additional charge, but I think it's a mandatory charge, or I think to the best of my knowledge, it's mandatory.
And tell us about the career center and what kind of facilities do they provide so that
Mhm.
student get the dream jobs.
Yeah. So the career center is great. There's a lot of great guidance starting your freshman year,
Mhm.
and a lot of great talks from people in the industries that like any industry you could think of. Like a lot of great talks, and they definitely help you out with, for example, your resume, connecting you to alumni, and just kind of charting the path of what you want your career to look like. They provide advice as to what would be best, the earliest steps to take, and yeah, like there's a lot of great support. So
Okay. And what are the options of on-campus job? As a student, have you done any on-campus job in your freshman year?
yeah, so I think there are a lot of options. A lot of my friends are doing some stuff on campus where we have student organizations that provide jobs to students, and as well as many other opportunities to earn money on campus. I think like you can do paid research as well, and there are a lot of opportunities. I personally have not done a on-campus job,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, if you're looking for one, you can definitely find one.
And how easy is to get into teaching assistantship or research assistantship as an undergrad student? How easy is to get these kind of jobs?
Yeah, so Harvard itself is a research university, so there are plenty of research opportunities, and the same thing applies. Like if you're looking for one, you could definitely find one. With regards to like teaching assistant and like teaching fellows, I think if you do well in the class, like you can apply,
Mhm.
and there's a good chance you'll get selected.
Okay. Now, coming to internship, since you just completed your freshman year, I am just curious if you had a chance to work as an intern for any company. And is there a restriction that university impose in terms of doing your internship? that you have to complete so many semesters or credit?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm currently working in venture capital this summer and as an analyst, a summer analyst. And as to whether there are restrictions, I don't know if any. I think you're free to do anything you want in the summer as long as, and
Mhm.
even while you're on campus, as long as you're completing your coursework and I think not failing out of school. So
Okay. And did your university help you find this internship, or was this your own effort?
yeah, this one specifically I found on my own, but they do provide a lot of opportunities through the career services office as well as just email lists and alumni lists. So
Okay.
yeah.
And would you like to recommend any coursework for the incoming student that can improve the chances of getting into a potential internship or a job?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's very dependent on what that person is passionate about or what they're interested in majoring in specifically. But I think like the more you can learn, the better. And it doesn't have to be even just for college, but just overall for your own development. So
Okay.
yeah, nothing specifically, but I definitely suggest learning online or whatever.
Okay. And I'm presuming that in the freshman year you would have lived in dormitory, or did you live off
Mhm.
campus?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Harvard itself, I think 99% of people, undergraduates at least, live on campus. So I did live on campus and I plan to for the next 3 years as well.
And so tell us about the life in the dorm life, how happening it is, and how does it shapes one's personality?
Yeah, no, so dorm life is probably one of my favorite parts of campus and like something I miss right now since we got sent back home for
Yeah.
coronavirus. But no, it's a great community. I think like a lot of fantastic people and the way the dorms are set up, like it's built for social interaction. So you
Mhm.
definitely get a lot of social interactions as well as if you're looking for even more, there's a lot of clubs and like I mean academic clubs and through sports and there are a lot of organizations that provide a lot of great experiences.
Okay, so now that you're talking about clubs, I want to know, does Howard has any specific number of club, and also what are the clubs in which you have participated or you would like to call as your favorites?
Yeah, so I mean, we don't have a strict limit on clubs. I think you can create one whenever you like. But I personally have participated in the South Asian Association, which is a great club. And I plan on doing a lot more when I get back to campus. However, like I am on the squash team, so that does take up some of my evenings. So there's some conflicts there. So I think it's important to pick and choose your clubs, and you should really be passionate about them because there's good commitment, but I think they're very rewarding as well. So like there's a whole array from pre-professional clubs to just anything that you want to do. Like there are a lot of great clubs. So.
Okay, and other than participating in these clubs, what all do students do for entertainment purpose?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of great performances on campus as well from
Mhm.
many of these clubs put on performances. Occasionally we have outside entertainment come. For example, we had a concert this year, and we usually have an annual concert. Unfortunately, it was canceled due to coronavirus. But outside of on-campus stuff, we have Boston, which is just 10-minute subway away, and it's a like a normal metropolitan area. So whatever you can do in, for example, in New York City, you can most likely find in Boston as well. So.
Okay. And tell us about your favorite professor in on campus, and what is that you really like about him or her?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like I don't have one favorite professor, but I think all of them that I've had this year have been amazing. And I think like just broadly speaking, their passion for the subject as well as their knowledge and willingness to help undergraduates. I think it's a great teaching community that they've built, and yeah, all great teachers so far. So.
Okay. And would you like to name a few professor, like one of professor who might be really famous, maybe because of their teaching style or because of the contribution that they have made to their
Mhm.
work?
Yeah, sure. So we have a ton of famous professors. One that I had the opportunity to take their class was Dan Shapiro, who's a former ambassador, and he is well known in the negotiation circles, like diplomatic circles as well.
Mhm.
So that I took a class called conflict resolution with him. It's a great class and great professor. And there's, for example, there are a ton of, like, for example, Nobel Prize winners and great minds. One that comes to mind is Cornel West. You may see him on TV sometimes. And yeah, I mean, they're just so many. So yeah, it's a great environment.
All right. Now, tell us on an average, if a student wants to study from Harvard, how much time does he or she spends as a, undergrad student, l- attending lectures, doing homework, self-study? So on an average, how many hours does a student spend in a week or in a day?
Yeah. So again, it's very variable, depending on the specific classes you take as well as your concentration in general.
Mm-hmm.
But for me specifically, studying computer science and economics, usually, so on average, we take an average of 4 classes. So we have, let's say, like maybe 3 classes a day to go to. So it's actually a lot of free time outside, which is why like clubs are so big, as well as like other extracurricular activities. But of course, you do have to fit in studying and completing the assignments. So I'd say you spend approximately 4.5 hours, 4 hours per day on class, like in class, and then beyond that, so it could vary. If you're taking life sciences, for example, you have labs which are much longer, maybe like additional 3 hours twice a week. But beyond that, the coursework, I mean, personally, I spend around maybe 3 hours a night. It could definitely vary, maybe like 5 hours some nights. Like it's very dependent on the week and the day specifically. But yeah, it's that's the general ballpark. Like you definitely have time for a lot beyond just your academic classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how would you rate academic pressure and workload in your program on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest?
Yeah. So our entire philosophy, I think, as being a liberal arts institution, is like we're not competitive in a bad way. Like we're not fighting for jobs or anything within our own class.
Mhm.
And so it's a more collaborative learning environment. So I think like with all the help that we get and all the assistance, I'd say like solid 7 out of 10. Like it's enough to challenge you and enough to push you, but it's
Mhm.
nothing that'll hurt your mental health or cause a
Okay.
lot of stress. So, yeah.
It's kind of more of a balance, approach than
Yeah,
to
exactly.
things were really intense. Okay. Oh, that's a good thing. And because
Mhm.
generally when we hear about Harvard, we think that if the getting admission is so difficult, then the curriculum might be really very intense. So that way is, I mean, it balances off, which
Yeah.
is good. So tell us about the course structure. Is there anything in particular you really like about the course structure or don't like about it in your program?
hmm Yeah. So actually, what's interesting about Harvard as well is that we apply to the school in general. So we don't apply to like say the School of Engineering or the School of Arts. It's not like that. So
Mhm.
when you're admitted to the school, you can take whatever you want and whatever courses you want. So there's no like divisional barriers, which is I think one of the best things about the course structure. And of course, like the course offerings are fantastic. The teachers are great. So I think overall, like that's the one thing that separates it from a lot of other schools where, for example, if you're in the School of Arts and Sciences, it'd be tough to take classes in the business school, for example. For us, like we don't specifically have like pre-professional classes, but we could take classes in whatever department whenever we'd like, as long as we meet the prerequisites. So.
Okay. And let's talk about the cost that a student has to be mentally prepared when it comes to studying in Harvard. So tell us about the tuition fee for your entire program. And other than tuition fee, what all other expenses you incur in terms of, living in dorm, transportation, etc.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think I just preface this by saying that the financial aid office is great, and I think the majority, so we're very, very generous with the financial aid they provide to people. And so the sticker price may seem a little bit high. So tuition itself, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but maybe somewhere around 60,000. And then you have to add on room and board, meals, and so I think you're looking at, if you don't receive any aid at all, no scholarships, you're looking at around $80,000 sticker price. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. So that's a valuable input. Now that you also spoke about the need-based scholarship and all, so is there any particular process that or qualification needed that the annual income of the family has to be, you know, at this level to apply for these kind of scholarship?
Yeah, so we have a great financial aid office, and actually, if you look on our website, we have a financial aid calculator as well, which you can just input, so they can give you a very rough estimate of how much financial aid you would possibly get. So you can just input a few fields. Most notably would be your family income, and it's surprising. Like they give a lot, so it's good to just check it out, completely free. And yeah, you don't have to be an admitted student or anything. You just go on there and just see for yourself. Yeah.
Okay. And now let's talk about your future plan. What is that you're planning to become in future, and how is the university and the career counselors and career center will help you to achieve that?
Yeah, so I'm looking primarily to go into entrepreneurship. So maybe a slightly different path than most. So I'm not actively recruiting for jobs. So I'm a little bit different in terms of the track I want to take. I definitely want um, to do something in technology. And I mean, so the entrepreneurship is like, I think, well established now. So we have like great organizations on campus. And beyond that, the Office of Career Services definitely helps out, as well as we have an organization known as Harvard Ventures, which is kind of like our Harvard's very own like startup incubator, and completely like equity free. Like everything's completely free. A lot of great resources, and beyond that, there are a lot of great opportunities to raise funding on campus. So completely free equity like grants. So like it's a great startup ecosystem.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that's kind of what I look to do in the near future, at least currently.
And as you said, there are a lot of ways by which universities can help. So
Mhm.
that's good. And in case when it comes to hiring student from your program, would you like to name some of the companies that hire student from your program?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think we have very good placement as a university. So say in finance, we have firms like Goldman Sachs, Blackstone, all the top investment banking private equity firms hire at Harvard, as well as if you look at tech, we got Google, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, really any company you can think of. Like they're definitely happy to recruit on our campus, and with that, like we're very lucky to have exposure, and just it's a great pipeline to move on to industry afterwards.
Okay. Now, I want you to talk about a mistake that you or your, friends would have made that you absolutely want future students to avoid.
Yeah, so I mean, I've made a lot of those mistakes. I think the most important thing is don't get caught up in the. It's easy to get caught up in all those rankings and stuff like that, but it's really important to stick to, as I mentioned before, like your personal criteria. Um, Go to school that's right for you, and I think like just be open-minded as well, because a lot of people end up changing their major, for example. So maybe you want to go to a school, if you think that could potentially happen to you, you want to be at a school that's more flexible. So in that sense, like Harvard provides a great opportunity. And then just broader with regards to test scores and stuff like that. Don't stress too much. I think like sometimes a lack of stress can improve your scores, and just be smart. And yeah, good luck. So.
Okay. And other than this, do you have any other general advice for student when it comes to coursework, or in
Mhm.
general, whenever they're when they come to Harvard, or when they are planning to apply to Harvard or any other university?
Yeah, so I think like that's very dependent on where they are in the stage. Say you're a ninth grader just getting into high school, I would suggest like, I mean, just a broad principle. You should be challenging yourself and be doing as much as you can to grow. And really, like college is not the focus, right? It's broader than that. So I think the main advice would just be to kind of have a goal and just work towards it.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So this was really helpful, Ayush, and I want to tell our viewers that Ayush is one of our experts, and they can connect to you, and they can also send you a message in case if they have any questions related to Harvard, or SET or ACT preparation or anything. And I really appreciate your time, Ayush. Thank you so much. You have a good evening and stay safe.
All right. Thanks for having me. You too.
Thank you. Bye bye.